Hi, this is Anna Bevan Gravely with NCFREE, and I'm joined by Amber Baker, who is running in House District 72. Amber, thanks so much for joining us. Before we get started, is there anything that you'd like to share with our members?
Well, I want to thank you for this time just to share with you who I am and why I'm running and what I'm passionate about. And anybody that knows me knows that I love children, love them. So if you're tired of your kids right now and you can find out a way to be able to drop them by my house, that's great. We'll stay safe. We'll keep our mask on and play and have a great time. And I think that's really what drives me to do what I do is my love for children and the current state that we're in. If we don't get this right, we're leaving a world to our children that they won't recognize when they're adults. So I love Winston. Not born and raised here, but Winston has been my home for over 30 years. So it's my home of choice. And it's a great place to live, and it's wonderful opportunities that exist here. And I'm originally from Louisville, Kentucky, so keep my family in prayer. The rioting and protesting that's going on right now is very close to where my brother and my aunt live. So that's always concerning for me. But yeah, I mean, just a fighter, and physically not so much anymore, but definitely philosophically. So what you need to know about me is that I'm a person that puts the full weight of what I believe behind a fight when I take it on. So
Yeah.
I think
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. So we're just going to dive right into the questions. Have you ever owned a business or been in a management position within a business?
So I do have my own consulting business and a homemade greeting card business. So a small business owner with no employees. And that's my little side hustle. My consulting business focuses primarily with doing diversity training and equity issues, and also doing charter school consulting for people who are looking to organize to start charter schools. My handmade greeting card business was formed because the art of writing handwritten notes is a lost form. And so I felt like if I created something that was beautiful enough, people would get back to writing notes versus sending emails. And also, as the principal of an elementary school, people don't typically associate us as CEOs of companies, but we are. You know, we have to deal with budget issues, we have stakeholders, we have human resource issues. And so I've been an administrator with almost 20 years of experience. And part of that experience was as a charter school director. And I handled a multi-million-dollar budget, I handled transportation, contract negotiations, health benefit, negotiations and purchases of health insurance. So not the typical CEO in that you're dealing with some type of product or what I like to say hard line, but my business is people. I'm in the people business.
Yeah, awesome. My mom and grandmother and basically my entire female side of my family would be very pleased about the greeting card business. I grew up in a household where thank you notes were written almost immediately after opening gifts. So that's a huge desire in our family and big backing. So thank you for all of that.
And recently I got a couple of cards in the mail where people were just thanking me for running. And it still brings a big smile to my face to just see that somebody cared enough to sit down and write a handwritten note. And I kept them, and it really means a lot to me.
Yeah, that is very meaningful. So second question, would you say that our federal and state taxation level is too high, too low, or just about right?
I think it's too low. I think that not only is the taxation too low, we give huge tax breaks to companies, which we should, to entice them to come do business here. But beyond that, we don't partner with them to create a better quality of life for the people in the cities that they establish their businesses. So I'd like to see that increased a little bit. And I'd also like to begin to work with the CEOs of those companies to say, how can you be a better partner? What does your training program look like for upward mobility for people who work for you? What kinds of incentives do you have for employees to go back to school and better themselves so that they can go from the production side to management? So really, again, helping them to become better community partners. And I just don't think that we've made the ask. We just assumed that they couldn't do it. Yeah. And that's the principle of a highly impacted school, a Title I school, where 100% of our students were on free and reduced lunch, and 100% were minorities. Obviously, we didn't have a strong PTA, but we were able to create wonderful opportunities for our children based on us working with various stakeholders across many different diverse ethnic and socioeconomic backgrounds. And so I'd like to take that kind of collaboration to the House in order to build what would be great opportunities that we hadn't thought about before, because we're working across many different interest groups.
And you touched on this in the answer that you just gave, but this will give you a chance to expand on it. Do you feel it is appropriate for state or local governments to offer incentives to private businesses in consideration of locating, expanding, and conducting business in a particular part of the state?
I do, but I think that there needs to be stipulations. I know here in Winston, we've had a couple of instances where we gave huge tax breaks to companies to entice them to do business here, and they folded and then didn't stay. So it was money that was lost. So I think that we give those incentives because we have to try to make ourselves as marketable as possible. But there needs to be some stipulations to that. And I think far too often in our need and desire to bring businesses, we've not been forward enough thinking to say, but if you leave or if you move on within a certain amount of time, then the expectation is that you will refund the city the money that we gave you to do business here.
Yeah.
Because I believe in, people have asked me, are you a capitalist? Are you a socialist? Are you a progressive Democrat? And I really don't know what that means. But I believe in capitalism and I believe in socialism. I believe that you should be able to make as much money as you possibly could make. Lord knows if I could invent something to make tons of money, I would. I haven't figured it out yet. But I don't think that you should be allowed to do that on the backs of the people that help you generate that money. And by that, I mean, there needs to be some social responsibility to those that are helping you to build that fortune. And I think we have an obligation to our seniors, to our veterans. We all have a collective responsibility to the people who have made this country what it is while we're making money. I mean, how many jets can you fly? How many houses can you live in? How many cars can you drive? So capitalism with social responsibility is what I would say. I believe it.
Interesting. Yeah. And so with that, how would you describe free enterprise? Like, what are the key principles of free enterprise from your viewpoint?
I think, free enterprise is just that. It's an opportunity for you to, if you see an opportunity to create a business and to seize on a new idea, then you should have that right to do that. Free enterprise to me doesn't mean that you're able to be irresponsible in what you're doing. Free enterprise means that you're creating solutions to a need that presents itself. Free enterprise means that anyone who wants to do business should have an avenue into that, avenue and opportunity into creating the business that they want. And I think a lot of times we know that minorities and women are often shut out of that process. And I think that we need to create avenues for them to be able to participate in that.
And this next question is very timely and still remains so as we try to figure out, and move through the coronavirus and what that means for businesses both on a federal level and on a state level. But in your opinion, what is the appropriate balance in the scope of federal and state regulatory requirements on business? And what, in your opinion, is the best way to balance those protections without impugning economic vitality?
So, wow, that's
there's a lot there. There's a lot
yeah,
there. It's a big topic for us to tackle.
Yeah. So part of what we're dealing with is the rollback of a lot of regulations that keep us safe. And those regulations were put in place because there was an abuse of power, if you will, from companies that were not being, they just were not being responsible. So I don't think that we should move totally away from regulation. Regulation is necessary, because if not, then we have people that are put in abusive situations. Our economy is affected by that. Our environment right now is being affected by deregulation. I think that when we're talking about regulation, though, I always feel like there needs to be a multi-tiered approach to the stakeholders that are around the table that has the decision-making power, and that we shouldn't just be dealing with the lobbyists. We shouldn't just be dealing with the CEOs of companies. You know, we should be talking to the homemaker, the people who are impacted. If we're talking about environmental impact, where are our environmental experts? So I think that there always has to be a balance between what is right and safe for the society versus the creating of wealth for a corporation. And that may not make me popular, because, you know, people are like, well, we're a capitalist society. But again, capitalism with responsibility, I feel like, is the way to go.
Yeah. And so if elected, what would be your top 3 priorities as it pertains to the business community?
So I have a 3-pronged approach to how I am running. Education, obviously, being at the top of my list, workforce and economic development, and then low income and affordable housing. And I think the second and third point would fit. The second point definitely fits neatly into the business community. And then the third point is there's room there too. So I think for workforce and economic development, again, it goes back to my original response that companies, I would like to see companies be more deliberate and more intentional about creating opportunities for people who work in their companies for upward mobility. I think it benefits them because being in a highly impacted school and seeing repeated turnover year after year, I had to find what was it that was going to make people want to stay. And what I found out is when we offered quality training, when we made them feel like they had some input in decision makings, when we took some of their ideas and actually implemented them, then people began to want to stay. And so I had 3 consistent years where I only had 1 or 2 people to leave, and that was either because they were relocating or they were getting married. And anyone who knows anything about working in a highly impacted school, a turnaround school, a turnover school, whatever label you want to put, that's an amazing accomplishment. So I think that as we begin to think about businesses and how we can create upward mobility and community wealth, is we've got to have strong workforce and economic development plans. And I think the business plays a strong point on that. Again, back to, if you're going to bid on a multi-million-dollar contract with the city, then the city should say to you, do you have a journeyman program? Do you have a training program that will allow some of the workers in the community that you're building in to come in and learn a skill? Again, creating some upward mobility opportunities for families who are in impoverished situations. We've got to get back to caring for each other, and I think as a society, we've moved away from that. And so that piece is important to me, that workforce and economic development piece.
Yeah.
And then the housing piece. We use the term low income and affordable interchangeably, but really we're talking about two different things. Affordable, you know, if you're a recent graduate and you're living in a community where you're starting out with a $35,000 income, you're wanting affordable housing, or 50,000, right? You're wanting to be able to live somewhere, good quality housing that is relatively inexpensive. If you're working at McDonald's and you're making $7.25, affordable for a college grad is not going to be the same affordability for someone who's making $7.25 an hour. But in both instances, people want quality housing. We have seniors. Winston is attractive to seniors, but we don't have enough good quality, affordable housing for our senior population, our veterans. Again, limited income, still wanting quality housing. So that's where our business partners can also, you know, be mindful of that when we're creating these new communities, be it housing, single family housing, or be it multi-dwelling units.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Amber. This has been a great chance to learn more about you and hear where your heart is and just what you want to do for the 72nd District. So before we wrap up, where can our members go to learn more about you?
So I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. It's all the same handle. Vote the number 4, Amber Baker. Also, my webpage is www.votethenumber4amberbaker.com. And even in this time of the pandemic and sheltering in place, we're still needing volunteers to help phone bank, make calls, help with website design. So still very much needed. Volunteers, funds are always needed, as we still have to get out campaign materials and the fees associated with that. And so that this has all been interesting, but I'm loving every minute of it. And yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. And I hope that you have a great rest of the day and good luck on the campaign trail.
Thank you so much.